8 original production. A new technique for detecting bone loss, a theatrical approach to preventing diabetes, and finding more efficient ways to harness the sun's energy. Next on ASU Discovers.
Funding for ASU Discovers is provided by the ASU Office of Knowledge Enterprise Development, helping to make discovery possible.
And zero and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis, reaching the crest of its historic achievements in space.
Astronauts must face a number of risks to their health and well-being. Among them is a problem that is shared by many who have never ventured into the hazardous realm of space. And that problem is bone loss.
Bone loss is a concern for NASA because when astronauts go into space flight, the body begins to adapt to the weightless environment, and one of those adaptations is that people start to lose bone. And the way I like to think of this is that the body understands what it needs to hold you up, and it builds your skeleton accordingly. And when you go into space flight and suddenly you're not walking around, you're not carrying the same mass, the body works to break that skeleton down to build you what would be a space normal skeleton, if you will. That would be fine if you were going to stay in space forever, but the astronauts want to come home, and we need to make sure that the skeleton remains as strong as possible during flight so that when folks come home to Earth, that they're not at increased risk of fractures or other problems.
As part of an ongoing effort to better understand the changes that take place in bone density during spaceflight, as well as how to counteract bone loss, NASA has partnered with researchers at Arizona State University on a study designed to develop a new technique for detecting bone loss. Ariel Anbar is senior author of the study.
The methods that exist right now are X-ray-based methods, and they're not particularly sensitive. By the time you detect that there's bone loss, the patient has already lost a significant amount of bone, and you already have a problem. So we wanted to see if there's better ways to do that, and we had the idea that measuring calcium isotopes in urine or blood would be an alternative way that could be more sensitive, and that's the research we set out to do.
But unlike conventional biomedical research, ASU's bone loss study had its origins in the field of earth science. Anbar, a geochemist, and his colleagues found a way to bridge the gap between two very different disciplines.
In the world of geochemistry, we have a whole bunch of tools and techniques and approaches to trying to study complex systems. Right? The Earth is a very complex system. Lots of stuff is going on. And we try to develop techniques that allow us to figure out what's going on with a relatively small number of measurements. And so we've developed ways of doing that over the decades. And we've thought for a long time that these methods ought to be useful in biomedicine as well.
The science behind the bone loss study is based on the chemical behavior of calcium isotopes. An isotope is one of two or more forms of an element that has a different atomic mass. In the human body, the abundances of these isotopes can function as indicators or biosignatures of changing bone density.
The basic idea behind the study is that when your bones are forming, your bones preferentially will take up the naturally occurring light isotopes of calcium from your blood, and that's what's actually forming your bone. So when your bones start breaking down, you have these light isotopes that are locked up in your bone. And if your bones start, dissolving, that light isotope signature comes back out into your blood. And you can measure it in your blood and urine.
The ASU researchers examined calcium isotopes in the urine of participants in a NASA bed rest study. The healthy test subject remained in bed for 30 days in order to simulate the effect of weightlessness on the body.
The results were very exciting. What we showed in this paper is that we can rapidly and quantitatively measure bone loss by just measuring calcium isotopes in urine samples. So what we showed is that after about a week of bed rest, subjects' calcium isotope composition changes consistent with bone loss. So this technique has a lot of value on a couple of different levels. First, the primary benefit that I see is that it has the ability to accelerate bone research in general because of its ability to rapidly detect the changes and quantify them. So instead of waiting 3, 6, 9 months to measure difference in bone density scans, we can now look and see if an osteoporosis drug, for example, is being effective, or if a countermeasure on the International Space Station is being effective on much more rapid timescales.
The potential benefits of the ASU study may extend far beyond the realm of astronauts. At the Mayo Clinic, Dr. Rafael Fonseca treats patients with multiple myeloma, a disease that affects the white blood cells and causes significant bone damage.
We're interested in the process of bone preservation and bone loss. The reality is that as we go on in life, there's a number of factors that can make an individual have loss in the density of their bones. It's important to remember that bones are living parts of our body. I often compare them to coral. They seem like they're just structures there with no life, but in fact, every day there's new bone being formed, there's bone being resorbed, there are cells that are in charge of the nutrition of the bone, and therefore it forms part of our health or our disease when the bone is affected. The consequences are very obvious. If someone has bone loss, that can lead to compression fractures, and in certain disease states, the damage to the bone can lead to an actual fracture. And these are, of course, medical problems with grave consequences for individuals.
Dr. Fonseca is partnering with the ASU team on further bone loss research and is optimistic about the implications for patient care.
We still have a long road to go through in the process of learning about these markers and their utility in the clinic, but I think there's hope and there's sort of a shining light that tells me maybe we'll have that marker for predicting bone disease in patients where we really don't have it right now.
It is very nice to see that this research sometimes seems just, even to us, maybe a little esoteric, right? Measuring isotopes in old rocks to figure out what life was like 2 billion years ago, that the same techniques could potentially be used in the very near future to improve people's lives. That's very rewarding.
A theatrical approach to preventing diabetes. Next on ASU Discovers.
If you bring the arts and the humanities into something that has been the domain of medicine or the harder life sciences, you might have results that you can't get when you're pursuing just one of those fields.
Helping those at risk for diabetes improve their diet and lifestyle choices can be, at best, a challenge. But for a group of ASU researchers, that challenge served as the basis for an interdisciplinary pilot study that combined theater, cooking demonstrations, and hands-on learning to transform the ways in which people think about food.
The project is called the Diabetes of Democracy in South Phoenix, and we were interested in seeing if theater and its various methodologies could do something for the awareness and prevention of diabetes among the people most at risk for it, which are, among others, Latino youth. If it could work where other traditional forms of education or publicity don't. And so for that reason, we designed a project that would place a performing artist, a live cooking show, in a high school setting and in ASU's downtown kitchens to see if either the youth themselves or the future allied health professionals might learn something from his innovative cooking techniques and theater techniques, frankly, that would help some of these ideas about healthy eating land in a way that they may not if you're just reading a book or watching a TV show.
We are going after type 2 diabetes in at-risk communities. We've been doing the cooking show for almost 17 years, going all over the country, making people laugh, have a good time, getting them to talk about their stories, and always remembering that food is the beginning, not the end. And so what we're doing is, it is both an educational thing, and it is bringing the community together through food, culture, and joy.
When his father was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, Robert Karimi observed firsthand how the disease could be controlled by consuming a diet rich in vegetables with smaller portions of starchy foods. It was an approach that relied heavily upon returning to the healthful traditions and recipes of Karimi's family, and has become a cornerstone of his workshops.
Our big thing that we're doing is, and it's big thing is, we're saying let's use cultural ritual and cultural stories to get people to remember, to reconnect to their cultures, their environment, and each other. And we think that that could be a way to curb type 2 and other diseases.
In the United States, this devastating disease is especially prevalent among Latino immigrants. And while there are multiple causes of type 2 diabetes, obesity and poor diet are among the most common.
The Latino community, like many immigrant communities, experiences dietary acculturation when they immigrate. When they move to the United States, they move away from eating traditional foods, and they will be eating perhaps larger portion sizes because the foods are less expensive. And this isn't always just fast foods, but the ability of processed foods and access to pre-prepared foods is an important issue. It is an emerging problem that is potentially quite serious.
The Diabetes of Democracy project focused primarily on developing a new approach to prevention. Because children and adolescents have become increasingly at risk for type 2 diabetes, one of the project sites was South Point High School.
It is so important. It's actually vital that they eat healthy. I've walked into classes where my students are sleeping, and the cause is they're not nourished. They're not eating healthy. They go through crashes. They eat sugar. They drink, a lot of these sports drinks that have a lot of sugar. They're not focusing. They're not able to think. They're not able to do homework or sit still. It's so important for our students to eat healthy. It will make a world of a difference in their education and in their lives in general.
At South Point, Karimi brought his interactive workshop to a language arts class twice a week for 3 weeks. During each of the workshops, students learned about healthful foods, how to cook, and much more.
The students, while they were cooking, were encouraged to share stories about what they did in their families or what their grandmothers did. And if there was a cultural component to it, even better, but we weren't trying to impose too much of a lens on it. And then as the students cooked together, the atmosphere in the classroom just kind of energized, and then it only took one day, and then from that point on they were a cooking community.
The program changed it changed my mentality about food, made us reflect on what we were eating, what our community was eating, what our family was eating. And yeah, like right now, our family's eating healthier, my mom's eating healthier, and it was a great experience.
In addition to South Point, Karimi brought his workshops to ASU's downtown kitchens in the School of Nutrition and Health Promotion. There he demonstrated his techniques and theatrical approach to graduate students and community health workers.
There was a little bit of a difference in everyone already knew how to eat healthy. And so they learned about the cooking, but they learned about how to engage an audience, how to use storytelling, how to integrate culture, into eating healthy and cooking. They learned about how can you communicate that message that, eating healthy can be fun, can be easy, can be something that the whole family can do.
Workshops with Karimi, while apart from being fun, have been very helpful to me in my work and in my personal life, because there is a before and after in the workshops. I learned personally not to be afraid to use new vegetables, to make variations with food to including vegetables either for my family or my job here. The nutrition classes have helped us a lot in motivating our patients to make healthy changes.
Once the workshops were completed, the researchers set about analyzing the study's findings. They determined that there was ample support for expanding the study within the community of South Phoenix, with young people at the center of a longer-term project.
Specific outcomes we discovered is that young people had measurable change in their beliefs about how easy it was to eat healthy, that they came in saying, yeah, it's hard to eat healthy, and they left saying, no, it's not that hard to eat healthy, actually. And their belief about how fun it was to eat healthy. Healthy food isn't bad tasting. It actually tastes pretty good and it's pretty fun to make. I mean, that's amazing.
With the high school students, the qualitative interviews in the focus groups really showed that it opened up a whole new world for them, that they hadn't really thought about how they could change and take control of their food, because they're at a transition point in their life where much of this has been done by their parents. But many of them expressed a great deal of enjoyment and growth coming out of that workshop experience, that it opened up a whole new world. And I think we have a wonderful project to go forward from here.
Finding more efficient ways to harness the sun's energy. Next on ASU Discovers. Although the human demand for electricity continues to grow, enough solar energy reaches the Earth's surface to meet that demand many times over. At ASU, the challenge of finding new and more efficient ways to harness the sun's abundant energy is the focus of an ambitious, multidisciplinary effort called LightWorks.
The primary purpose of LightWorks is to draw together all the different elements of light-related research across the campus. And I can say from the outset that we do a lot of research at ASU that is related to light. The primary emphasis of what we do is on energy. So we take a particularly aggressive look at how the research that we do, and not just technical research, by the way, also in humanities, social sciences, policy, law, everything related to the way that people use energy, how we can draw all those threads together into the kind of comprehensive package that can address the big challenges that energy faces going forward.
Integral to the mission of LightWorks is the Energy Research Center, QUEST, which stands for Quantum Energy and Sustainable Solar Technologies. Funded by the National Science Foundation and the Department of Energy, the center is housed in the Macro Technology Works building at the ASU Research Park. It is an ambitious undertaking that places substantial emphasis on creating opportunities for student research. It also has established critical partnerships with a number of other universities, businesses, and a variety of stakeholders, all directed at attaining a common goal.
So the easiest way to define the goal of Quest is to talk about the Terawatt Challenge. And the Terawatt Challenge was first described about 15 years ago when people realized that to supply energy to the entire globe at the same level that we consume here in the United States, we have to deploy massive amounts of energy producing devices. And those devices, they really need to be clean. They can't be polluting the environment. They need to be economical, and so that people can afford to purchase the energy from those devices. And they have to be sustainable, meaning that they don't rely on a limited fossil fuel. And so this idea of producing massive amounts of power cleanly, cheaply, and sustainably is what Quest is all about.
And the primary means of achieving that is through photovoltaic technology.
Quest is devoted to making solar cells more feasible. So solar cells directly convert sunlight into electricity. They're actually a very unique form of energy conversion. So if you look at most of the way you generate electricity, it's all coming from generally a heat source. Then the heat source via a generator gets converted into electricity. So solar cells are completely different from that. They take a sunlight and directly make an electron, and then the electron comes down the wire to be used by whoever or whatever it's needed, the same way that the generator would power it. So it's technically the newest out of all the electricity generating mechanisms.
Hansberg and her colleagues also are involved in the creation of highly sophisticated solar cells that employ technology similar to that used in the making of lasers.
What we have in our lab is called a molecular beam epitaxy system, and that deposits on a certain substrate a single atom at a time to grow very precise, very well-controlled structures. And people have demonstrated, or commercial companies have demonstrated, over 40% efficiency for those types of devices.
An important focus of ASU's solar power labs is to make more highly efficient solar cells that are capable of breaking the 50% efficiency limit.
Most people don't have a very good feel for what efficiency sort of means or what comparable efficiencies are. An old style light bulb used to be about 4% efficient. A conventional electricity generating plant is about 30. A car is about, say, 15. Humans are about 15% efficient. So the theoretical efficiency for a solar cell is actually over 80%. So even though existing commercial devices don't approach that, it actually has the potential to be very, very efficient at converting sunlight into electricity.
In addition to increasing efficiency, helping to make photovoltaic technology more accessible worldwide also is a goal.
The sort of high-level view of the goals is to continue to allow photovoltaics to expand at a very rapid rate. So if you look at the rate at which photovoltaics has been growing, it's adding over 40% new capacity a year. So that's an amazing growth rate, and it means that within a decade that we can use photovoltaics for all new electricity energy. So that means you won't have to, at least from an energy standpoint, build any new coal plants, any new nuclear plants. You can have all the new electricity demand met by photovoltaics or other renewables.
Industry partners play an important role in Quest's efforts to advance the field of photovoltaics. Soitec is an international manufacturer of semiconductor materials for electronics, solid-state lighting, and solar industries.
From the very beginning, we have partnered with ASU. We partnered in research on solid-state lighting material solutions, and then we evolved towards also incorporating solar cells research and materials, as well as device research projects. So for industrial partners being exposed and have a chance also to orient this research is very valuable, because this is something that as a single individual industry partner we wouldn't be able to do.
As Quest and its partners continue their work to advance solar technology, a number of critical social issues must be addressed as well. Among the most important is cost.
You think about where we've come already, and it is remarkable, the pace of development of these technologies and the pace at which we have been able to actually drive down the cost of solar. It was only 5 years ago when solar was at about $4 per watt, or in some cases higher than that. And we've been able to drive it down to where some forms of solar technologies are almost below or are below $1 a watt. That's a huge price decline. We've got these technologies to the point at which, you know, many Arizonans and many Americans are starting to put them on their rooftops, and it's pretty remarkable. But it's going to take a very sustained effort to continue to try to drive these technological costs down and to bring them to market over the next 10 years.
It is that sort of sustained effort in multiple areas that has defined solar research at ASU.
We are, in my opinion, almost unique, in my experience, for a university to have the scope that we do to address these problems, not simply as the technical problems, but as social and political, economic problems as well. This all didn't happen by accident. This has all been the result of making some very important strategic investments. And I think we're now beginning to see Quest is a great example of that these investments are bearing fruit.
Funding for ASU Discovers is provided by the ASU Office of Knowledge Enterprise Development, helping to make discovery possible.